let's launch into the description of the course and other things that are all here in the syllabus. So this BCST 100 is called Intro to Electronic Media. So we'll be meeting here 9:30 to 10:45 a.m. I won't be late on subsequent days because I have to drop my kids off at school like at 8 o'clock. So it's easily doable. Sorry for today. My office hours are 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. to noon, 12 in the Art Extension building, which is across the street and just, that away from Ocean. So you can, make an appointment or just show up. I'm there Tuesdays and Thursdays, and you can email me. The address is there. Terrific. Okay. So let's see. What do we cover in this course? We start off looking at the history of the electronic media. By electronic media, it really begins with the telegraph, which we don't spend much time at all talking about. But then radio and television were like the big electronic media of the last century. And so we look a little bit at the history of those, mostly just to be able to draw comparisons with what's going on today. Because obviously we're in a moment where the media is changing really rapidly, and it's both scary and exciting. It's scary to me because it makes me feel increasingly old, and it's like I don't have time to spend hours on Twitch learning exactly the culture there, and so I wish I did, but I look to you guys to here, syllabus for you, sir, and I look to you guys to help me out and learn more about that for sure. So it's scary because I feel more and more out of touch, and also because we're a CTE program. That's a career technical education program here at City College. So part of our mission is to help people get the skills to get jobs. And one student who took this class about 5 years ago named Jordan Tayer left the class mid-semester and went to work for Twitch before it was bought by Amazon, and he was there when it was bought by Amazon, which meant that he suddenly had a six-figure salary, and it was great. And he left it last year to go work for an outfit which actually supplies content to Twitch, but he was fed up with working for Twitch. So you guys are working in this new field where all these things are possible. I'm looking at it going, wow, one of my most successful students was here. He was a fantastic student and stuff. And then he moved on. And I'd really, trying to keep in touch with him, say, hey, what did you learn here that helped you? What can we do? So as a career technical education mission in our department, it's a challenge to know what's going on and how we can help you get the skills necessary to work in this new environment, right? Used to be we teach you what a radio station did, and then you go and maybe intern or maybe just go directly into a job in a station and you'd make a career of it, but now it's really interesting and complex. So the other thing about it is just a lot of what we look at when we look at the history is very simple media systems, you're in a town and there's 5 channels and that's electronic media, Now we're in a town and there's 80 channels and there's hundreds of channels on cable and there's endless channels on streaming media, and you can get it on your phone or you can get it at home or you can get it in your car, and you know it, right? But my head is still spinning, and a lot of what we know as the basic theories and ideas about media still apply, but they need updating and thinking through. So to the extent that we can have a good conversation in this class, it's often about that, what are you guys doing with media? And if I tell you about something somebody thought about media as it was 20 years ago, can you apply that to what's going on now? And can we understand better what electronic media is? So that's our current situation. So we look at history just in order to get some ideas about where we're at now. And then this is a business, right? So we try to, talk to you about the different logics, how electronic media companies make money, subscriptions or outright selling and stuff like that. We talk about how advertising supports a lot of it. And we also talk about, various serious research that's being done, about things like television violence or the influence of media, propaganda, things like that. Which again, it's all really pertinent to our current situation, where the president lies without any consequence, where you can't really trust a lot of what's out in the media, and yet the media is incredibly influential. So I find it a really rich and fascinating area to think about. I used to work in it. Again, this was a generation ago now, so I wanted to be a television creative person in one way or the other. And so I started off, after college, very much like this, getting out onto electronic news gathering shoots as a sound man, then as a camera person, then as a field producer. So just basically organizing it and having it done. And at the same time, I was making money, making little videos for companies and stuff. So a lot of that still goes on. But obviously, to that skill set now, you'd like to add, live streaming an event or something like that, where you go out with 3 cameras and it's all linked together and being pushed out onto social media immediately. These are new jobs, but the fundamentals are still quite similar, I think. So I used to work in that, and then I, at a certain point at 30, I figured, wow, this is really unstable. Well, we're constantly getting fired and looking for jobs, and not really getting fired, but just the shows would end and you'd have to go. So then I went to university and I thought, oh, well, this is really cool, this is fun. And so then I kind of stuck into teaching and came here. I used to live in Canada. So I came here in 2002 to go to Berkeley, and then I got a job at San Francisco State, and then I got a job here in 2008. So I've been here 10 years at this place. Well, there you go, that's me. There's too many people here to ask go around the room, tell me what you want to do. We'll be here till noon. But I hope during our discussions we get a chance to, get to know a little more about each other and how we use media. How many people, this is their first time at City College? A few people. Okay, wow, all right. So do talk to me if there's some stuff that I kind of fly by, especially our learning management software. So I have time after class if you do. How many people are sort of San Francisco State using this to transfer? Anybody? Oh, okay, a couple. Welcome. Yeah, this class does transfer as Becca 200. So if eventually you get the broadcasting bug and decide to go over there, you have already done one of your 3 core courses that allow you to declare your major in Becca. And that may be changing. I mean, they may make it easier to become a Becca major at some point. But, so you might take this class at San Francisco State with like 150 other students in a giant room, or you can take it here and have a better discussion, I think. So that's good to think about. You can transfer this to the university if you want. We also have here at City College something called the AST degree, the Associate's Transfer degree. Some people may be working on that. So that's where you can do a lot of your lower division electives here or at any other community college. And the AST degree guarantees that you can take all of that and transfer it to a Cal State university. Any one of them will accept these courses, guaranteed. So that's something to think about as well. If you're planning eventually to go to a 4-year university, you can take a lot of stuff over there, which is great. Okay, so let me run through that. As I said, content-wise in the course, a little bit of history, a little bit of technology, how things developed, a little bit of business talk, how the business operates in these different areas, radio, television, what they've become online and streaming, social media, which we're not as strong on. The textbook is not as great a reference as I would like, so I'm looking to you guys to bring your experiences and your critical thinking towards what's going on online on the cutting edge. Things like Twitch. I don't even believe Twitch is actually, mentioned in our textbook. And yet it's for the last several years, it's been, one of the largest streaming platforms on the internet. I think only after Netflix, and YouTube. After that comes Twitch in terms of traffic. It's huge. Why isn't it in our textbook? Because most of us just don't understand it yet. So help us out, okay? And a little bit of theory all along the way. Maybe some today, if I stop talking at some point. So meeting times we talked about here, and so let's dig deeper into the rules about when you have to be here and how this works. So as I said, there are only a few days where you must be here. The rest of the time you may be able to keep up with the lectures by streaming. This is entirely your choice. If you do better going to a class every week, bring it on, I'm happy to be able to talk to you. If it works better for you, sometimes here, sometimes streaming, that's okay too. The stream is there for you to elect to use if you like. Yep.
If we stream it, do you have an option to communicate with the class?
Yeah, I open a chat session in our learning software, and then I kind of ask somebody in class to monitor it because, moderate it, I guess, a mod. We need a mod because I can't keep up with it, So that's how we do it. So you can send sort of, tweet length comments or something, and hopefully the person monitoring will read them out. That's so far the best we can do, but I'm hoping that maybe we can, actually, bring video into that or something. We'll see. For now, I guess it works out okay. So it's up to you if you want to stream or not. It's at your discretion. If you find that you're losing touch with a class, come back and, reunite with us. We don't want you to disappear. Right? Yes?
Are those the streaming cameras?
They are, yeah. So this one's focused on me. For now, today, we're not shooting anybody in the student body. Did anyone else, I'm assuming you didn't get this release. Did anyone else come in a little bit later, didn't get a release for? Okay, just yourself. So it is possible not to give us permission to shoot you as well. We just have to seat you in a place where you can't be seen by these cameras, if that's the case. So these, at the bottom of page 1 are the required dates when we really need you to be here, okay? So the first would be either today or Thursday, just because legally we have to see you in the class and note your attendance so we don't drop you as a no-show. The midterm exam on October 11th, you have to be here, so that's written in class. And on November 7th or November 9th, we'll be picking the dates exactly. There's a short presentation of an item of industry news. So you guys, will get into groups covering a particular media company and just give us the latest news about that company in a sort of a pseudo on-air broadcast. We'll give you a mic, you stand here and you talk to the camera. You're doing your news announcer thing, Today, Disney bought all of 21st Century Fox's media assets and so on. So that's on November 7th or 9th, just because there's so many of us that we need to put it out over 2 days. And then you have to be here for the final exam, which is on December 18th from the ungodly hour of 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. But I'll be here that whole time, okay? So apart from those mandatory days where you have to be here, the rest of the time, it's up to you if you want to be here or if you want to stream the lecture. Okay? And then going forward, I'll just be passing around a sheet where you sign your name on it. And if you're here, so let's see. Roll your boat. This is BCST 110. All right, cool. Okay. This would also be a great time to correct me if I mispronounce your name or tell me if you go by a nickname or something like that, okay? So Brendan Aggregato. Yeah. Hey, Brendan. And Anthony Alarcon.
Here.
You're in the audio class too,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
I also have another one.
Sweet. We're going to see each other a lot. Okay, Tristan Baker. Hi. And okay, Messar Byfield Williams?
Mesa.
Messer?
Mesa.
Mesa, okay.
Should be any R.
I can barely focus. I hate to say it. You're right, there isn't. So Mesa, thanks. And Guadalupe Cabrera.
You can call me Lupe.
Lupe, thank you. Awesome. Kevin Sika. Gotcha. William Clater is here. And Francis. Francis, hi. Desiree Cruz. Okay, gotcha. Michelle. Michelle Duras. Okay, that's a familiar name too. Gabe Diaz. Hey, Gabe. Michaela Epps. Hi. Okay. Vicent Evangelista.
Yeah.
Is it Vincent or Vicent? Or
Recent.
Vicent. Thank you. Gotcha. It's just because I can't focus well. Joseph Frankovich. Joseph. Alrighty. Samantha Fuller. Samantha. Ah. Lack. Okay. Gotcha. Alexis Hernandez. Alright. And Nalani Jackson.
I go by Lonnie.
Lonnie. Okay. You. Alex is here. And Ekaterina Kacharova. Okay. Paul Lopez. Paul. Right. Miko is here. Vladimir Mahano. Yeah, thanks. Michael Martha. Erica Mendez. Alrighty. Max Mercier. Okay. Adrian Parillo. Adrian?
Oh, we go by as AJ.
AJ? Okay. Dominique Pate. Dominique. Okay. Christopher Russell. Christopher. Okay. Josias Tapia. Did I get that right? Anywhere close to it? Yeah? All right, thanks. And Chow's here. And Anoa Wang.
Here.
Noah? Okay, gotcha. Jesse Wang?
Here.
Hi, Jesse. And Gordon John. Okay. Am I missing anybody? Someone wanted to add?
Samantha Fuller.
Samantha Fuller. Okay, you were just out at the crucial moment.
I know.
That's okay. Okay, we got you. Was anyone looking to add? I can't remember. Yes? Okay. Yes. So see me at the just after class. I'll give you the codes. Okay? Fantastic. Anyone thinking about adding audio production? Thank you. I'll give you codes for that too. Thanks, guys. That would be
You never
wonderful.
mentioned what time that class would be.
It starts at 9:30 a.m. admission.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you're interested, hang on. I can tell you guys more about it if you want. As you can tell, I'm eager to welcome students into that class. Okay, so now we're set. We know who was here. If anybody who I called you know and they weren't here today, please put the word out that they got to come here, or I'll drop them and I'll email them and such if ever. We'll do our best to make sure everyone who wants to be here is here. Okay, cool. So that's it about attendance. So what else do I have to say here? We covered the release forms. Okay, I say here, disclaimer or whatever, please note I cannot guarantee that every class will be streamed or recorded. If the video is not available for any reason, please let me know and we'll try to fix it. You can still keep up with the course by reading the assigned chapters of the textbook, reading the PowerPoint presentations for each chapter, and completing the writing assignments that are clearly explained on our Canvas site. So we do our very best to stream everything and to archive it. If for some reason it wasn't there, as I said, you'll still have the PowerPoints, you'll still have the chapter that you can read, and all of the assignments are up online. So you can, of course, do those and turn them in online, which is the way that we do all the assignments and working here, except for that little presentation of media industry news, which will be a little later. For that, it's actually in class and stuff. Okay, so that brings us to grading policy. I'm on page 2, sort of down in the middle. CCSF requires me to keep records of class attendance, so I do take attendance, but attendance does not directly affect your grade, right? Because sometimes you won't be here, you'll be streaming the class. Your grade is determined by assignments and quizzes that are turned in via Canvas. So Canvas is our learning management software, and I'll open it up in a second. So those of you who are new to City College may have used the exact same thing in another college or something similar, like at San Francisco State we have iLearn, which is quite similar. You won't have any problem once you learn how to get into it and see the features of it. So I'll quickly run through that now, but if anyone needs a deeper refresher or learning thing after class, I can show you that too. It is important to show that you are keeping up with the course by completing quizzes and assignments on time. I accept late assignments for up to 2 weeks after the deadline with a penalty of 10% per week. After 2 weeks, I will not accept late assignments. So in this class, it's even more important to do the work and get it in on time, or at least get it in within a 2-week window so that I know that you're actually participating. Because since I don't see everybody every day, there's really no way for me to know that you're actually, keeping up with the course, except by looking in our learning management software, which tells me, did you go and look at the online resources this week, and you turn stuff in. Otherwise, you could be gone for a month and I wouldn't even know it. Okay, so it's important to keep up with those assignments, and if you can, it is super appreciated that when you are live streaming the class, you check in to the chat session that'll be open. Just say hi, here I am, and if you have any comments or questions you want to ask, hopefully we'll be monitoring the chat. But it's a good way that I know that you're there as well. So the add drop policy, if you do not submit 2 assignments in a row, I'll withdraw you from the class, because I'll figure, well, you're just not participating anymore. And again, because you're not coming in every day to every class, there's really no other way to know too well about that. So here's a big warning. If you're in the Free City program, you know that your tuition gets paid for if you're a San Francisco resident, with a couple of other conditions. But if you drop after the date to drop for a full refund, you become liable for the cost of your tuition. And not everybody knows this. It's like, oh great, school is free. It's only free if you're full-time San Francisco resident and you stay in the class. If you drop after September 1st, you will be liable for that. And so it's no longer free. So I just wanted to warn you about that, okay? If you decide you don't like this, then drop before September 1st, okay? All right. So assignments and the work that we're going to do. So let me get into our learning management software. We can look at that a little better. So here at City College, we have a site-wide identification, like login to all of our services. It's called the RAM ID. Rams because our sports team are the Rams. So if you go to ramid.ccsf.edu, you can log in to a bunch of different services, including Canvas, which is our learning management software. If you're wondering, how did I get that address and everything, if you go to the City College homepage, right, and click on My CCSF, you'll find down here a link to log into Canvas as well. Most of you are already City College students, so you've got all this down. But if you're just joining us, you're interested in this link down here, which is claim your RAM ID and log into Canvas. This is a guide as to what to do, basically. So when they say claim your RAM ID, it basically just means, the system will tell you your password and get you into the system. So those are the instructions. A key part of this is if you're new to the system, it'll tell you eventually that you'll be clicking on here, new user, and you'll go through, the setup of your RAM ID with the security questions and everything like that the first time. Your username will be your student number probably. and a password that will be assigned by the system, and you'll change it the first time you go into your own unique passbook and stuff. And this was what gets you to the keys to the kingdom, the wealth of knowledge which is locked behind the door. And I can't remember my password, so here we go. I do remember it now. Just answering the wrong one. So there we go. Canvas is the name of our system here. And you should have, you know, your professors publish Canvas. For most professors do now, some don't, but you should have one for each of your classes probably. So here we are at Intro to Electronic Media. And there's always a possibility I've messed up and haven't turned something on. So please do communicate with me if something, you know, isn't showing up for you. So here we go. This is very much like any learning management software. There's a bunch of items on the left here. You can look at the syllabus, which I handed out to you. It's out there at any time. Modules, grades, assignments, and I should bring up a couple other things that I always turn off. I'll fix that. But I think we've got enough to get going. So the real, you know, useful stuff can be found by clicking on modules, and then week by week, the stuff that we're talking about in class will be up here. Actually, this is a little scary because you're seeing more than you would usually see. So let's go to student view, and so this will look like what you'll see up here. So in the first section, just some stuff about our class and how to get around Canvas for those people who are new to it. The required textbook. So it's written here in the syllabus too. Electronic Media, Then, Now, and Later, 3rd edition by Medoff and Kay. There are at least four copies of this on reserve in the library, if you want to get it that way. I recommend JAG as a good online site for renting as well. You know, there's also, you could rent it through Kindle. So there's a Kindle version as well, which I find particularly useful because you can search it and stuff, and you know, it disappears after the course is over. So those are your options. Of course, there's the bookstore where you can pay full price for it as well, or rent it, I think, out of the bookstore. So those are your options about getting a hold of the textbook. And then in the next section here, we have guidelines for research papers and the 2 research papers that we're going to do. So I'm going to be assigning topics for these 2 research papers. They have a pretty large number of points attached to them. Like basically, you might get away with doing only 1 research paper, but that would be kind of like taking away 20% of your grade. So each of these 2 papers is worth 20% of your grade. So they're you know, heavily weighted. You have to count on writing these papers. And here's the guidelines for them. That's up there, and they're 4 to 5 page papers. The research is primarily done out of the textbook. So that means it's doubly useful to have the textbook. And then if you need any extra information to make your point, you can go beyond the textbook and stuff. You have to do the usual citation of sources to make sure you don't run into accusations of plagiarism. So we talk extensively about the different topics. And I try to get you prepared to, you know, write good research papers for the class. So here, for instance, are some of the topics for the first one. Discuss the impact that the network system had in developing a national culture and stuff. So, you know, we will discuss each of these possible topics in class before you have to write on it. Give you some ideas, give you some, you know, hints as to where to look for information in the textbook and stuff like that, and then you choose which one you want to write about. So these, as I said, out of 100 points, each of these is worth 100. out of 500. Each is worth 100. One due on September 25th and one due at the end of class on December 6th. Okay? So that's where you'll find out more about that. And then the rest of the modules, as they're called, are set up as a kind of week by week what we're doing this week. So this week we're looking at chapter 1 of the textbook. You know, if you haven't received it yet or something, don't worry. You can learn what you need to learn from the slides. The slides that I showed during lecture are going to be up here for each of the weeks. And sometimes I'll throw in some other interesting information, a video, for instance, Marconi versus Tesla, who was the inventor of radio and stuff like that. So that's in the historical section, right? So that's the way it's laid out. And so you can find everything that we've been using you can use it to study as well for exams and stuff like that. So our quizzes and exams, we do a little review as well. And we also use something called Kahoots. Have you anyone played Kahoots? Some people are nodding. Okay, so Kahoots are these little quizzes, for practice that we do in class, and you can log into Kahoots on your phone, and then you can vote on the correct answer, and it makes it a little more fun to review stuff in class. So I use those too, and we'll tell you about those, next week when we get started with that type of operation. Okay. So Kahoots make class a little more interesting. Let's head back to the syllabus, page 3. If you have any questions how to use this, stay after class on. So page 3 is all the assignments, like what's due, right? So the first thing is a media use diary, and that's going to be due on September 6th after Labor Day. So we have a couple of weeks to deal with that, and we'll talk more about it. But basically what I ask you to do is to keep track of what media you're using. And selfishly, this is where I learn a lot about what you as an audience with particular demographic characteristics, right? Your demographics would be gender, age, and other ethnic or racial characteristics. This is what the broadcasters actually track. Facebook tracks a million more things in much greater detail. Broadcasters are at a disadvantage here. So when we talk about demographics, those are those very broad data points of, that put you into a particular group. And of course, I'm a generation removed from you in terms of demographics. And so I don't really know how you're consuming media. And it's really quite interesting for me to find out about how you guys are using media, and for you to just get an overview of, wow, I didn't realize, I'm online, 80 hours a week or something like that. I hope that's not the case, but it might be. And so, or gee, I really haven't watched any television, in the last year or something like that. This is another thing that could blow my mind, given that, the national averages were like people were watching 6 hours of television a day or something. But that is rapidly changing. So it can be really interesting for you to get an overview of, what do you do with media? Wake up every morning, I check, my social media feed while I'm eating breakfast, and then I get out in the car and I listen to radio, or I stream music while I'm walking to school, or, whatever. There's so many options now. So this is a pretty simple exercise where you, note down what you're doing and reflect on what you think is the most important medium. And then I ask you for a brief period to go without that medium, just to see what life feels like without one of your media habits or crutches, or however you want to think about it. A very famous guy, Marshall McLuhan, I heard about it, was kind of a 1960s media theorist, called media's extension of man, which sounds very, kind of male-oriented right now, but what he meant is that every medium allows you to, it takes a particular kind of human, social, or communication function and extends it, So what happens when you chop that off? When your technologically enabled memory is taken away because you can't use your laptop for 6 hours, or when your technologically enabled social skills are, amputated briefly because you can't use your social media to coordinate where you're going to meet up with people or stuff like that. So that is also interesting in highlighting the kind of dependence that we are, you know, I don't know how you guys feel about it. I feel that we are, you know, hey, here's this smartphone, use it. It's incredible, it's fantastic, right? And then a few years later, you realize it's changed everyone's lives, right?
True.
Thank you. You know, and they didn't know how it was going to change anything. So don't count on Apple or whoever to give us a safe tool. Nobody knows. You know? And again, believe it or not, but in 1960 they were saying this about TV. So it's also sometimes a little alarmist as well. You know, we survived television. Cool. So that's the media use diary. There's a TV programming thing we're doing in class, but it can also be done at home if you're streaming. So that's where we pretend that we are, you know, programmers for cable network, and we decide what kind of shows we're going to give to our audience to make sure that they're happy, satisfied subscribers. Then there's that research paper, which, as I said, due September 25th. It's worth an enormous amount of points. Because it requires research, reflection, writing. That's a lot of hard work, right? And we'll prepare for it. There's a quiz, September 13th. So, you know, the Kahoots will get you prepared to answer questions on the chapter readings. So I draw heavily on the Kahoots for questions for those quizzes. So if we do a good job and do the Kahoots, and then we'll be ready for those quizzes, which is great. Then the next thing is an advertising analysis thing. So we look at various ads and we try to suss out, well, what the hell were they thinking? So we do that. Midterm exam, written here. That's one of those mandatory days. You have to be here on October 11th to write the exam. The industry news presentation, which I mentioned before. We pretend that we're newscasters talking, you know, doing Bloomberg Business News, Media Division, or something like that. And you talk about Disney, or you talk about Comcast, or you talk about Facebook, or you talk about YouTube and Google. You know, what's the latest news that's impacting the world? There's another quiz. There's an online discussion about what kinds of entertainment media you prefer. Do you like, you know, high-profile detective dramas, or do you like, you know, reality TV shows? And so basically thinking through what your personal preferences are in terms of content and why you think that is, and comparing yourself, again, to the rest of your demographic. So in broadcasting, we're so interested in not so much in individuals, although more and more that's important, but we're interested in what advertisers are interested in, which is they want to sell. You know, they want to sell however many million 20 to 30-year-old young women to, you know, a certain advertiser. So what they care about are those types of things. And all the programming, which is out there, is designed to kind of sort through the mass of all kinds of different people and just like a magnet, draw the people that we want to advertise to. You want to draw them to that show. So the advertiser will then happily spend their money to talk to those people. Same thing in radio, right? You know, if you like hip hop music, there's 3-4 stations out there that will draw you there. If you're an old guy who likes to play golf and listen to 1970s rock, there's a couple of stations which will draw them over there. And of course, vastly different advertisers are after those people. Golf club people want the, you know, dad rock gang, and so that's why media programming is specialized in the way that it is, you know. And then it becomes much more fascinating when you're on Facebook, where categories are in the hundreds, not just old dads, but old dads who may have searched for golf clubs in the last 24 hours, who also have pictures of, you know, Florida golf courses. And so, and then, you know, the airlines are trying to sell them packages about golfing vacations, and the golf club manufacturers and the shoe people. So, you know, again, you can see how that level of invasive knowledge about the consumer is so much more advantageous to Facebook or Google in a way that, you know, CBS has a tough time, you know, competing stuff. So we'll look at that stuff. Yeah. Research paper number 2, this is kind of at the end. Again, there are assigned topics, which kind of, are taking an overview of what we talked about in the latter half of the class. So the first research paper is more about history and comparing how things were then to now. And the second research paper is more about like what the industry is doing now and what kinds of opportunities are out there maybe for you and people who want to work in media. There's at least one question like that. And then there's a final exam. And notice that the exams are worth 50 points out of 500. So they're comparatively, they're like worth 10% of your grade versus each of those essays is worth 20% of your grade. So you really need to do those essays in order to get through the class. And again, as I say, I support you by discussing the topics in advance, by giving you ideas about, what you could argue in your essays and where to look for information and stuff. So I hope you do a really good job. And there's a lot of interesting things you can learn about yourself and your own media use through doing that. Cool. Questions about the work? Yes.
For the in-class presentation, the industry news, on this assignment area, it says November 15th, on the other side it says a different date. Does that just mean like that week?
No, it just means I made a mistake. So let me mark that, I'll correct it, but it is, let me take a look. Which one is the better one to trust? I will confirm that. I believe it's November 15th. Yeah, so let's fix this. So we'll, on page 1 where it says 11.7 or 11.9 as assigned, write 11.15 and I will correct that. It's just switched from the last time I taught the class because whenever you do this you realize, oh, that's too soon or that's too late or minor tweaks. So the table has the correct date, November 15th. So that is one of those mandatory dates. Other questions? That was a good question. Clear up my messes. Okay. Excuse me. Okay. 2 more items down here, accommodations. So here at City College we have the DSPS, which is dedicated to helping all students do as well as they can in all of their classes. So if you feel like, I don't know, you need extra time on tests or you need a quiet place to take a test, if you have emergency medical information, if it might be difficult for you to get out of a building in case of an emergency, or if we need to put you in a special seat or something like that, let me know and we'll connect you with the DSPS and they do an assessment and they send me a letter which tells me all officially what we need to do. Okay, and it's all designed to help you do as best as you possibly can in your classes and stuff. So that's DSPS, phone numbers are up there. And then the plagiarism language, which, we're writing essays and stuff, and there's a lot of essays floating out on the internet about the history of media and stuff like that. So you don't want to, get a 0 on that assignment because I find out that you've plagiarized something. And we do have a tool in the Canvas which kind of reads through your essay and looks for, too much correspondence with other stuff in their database. So that's one way that it can kind of say, hey, whoa, watch out, you got too much quotation in this essay. So we'll use that, but I guess the other thing is just really, if you're committed to sort of finding out what you think and doing your best to presenting it in the best way that you can possibly do it, then plagiarism is not an issue, right? Because you are doing your own thinking and writing in the most convincing way that you can find to write. And so that's going to be an original piece of work. And usually if I see something, my assignment topics are assigned and they're very narrow, they're very specific. So if I see that somebody is like writing about, I've asked about the history of some very specific technology and instead I get a 10-page essay about, from the telegraph to social media, the entire history of electronic media, that's going to do very, very badly. And whether or not it was plagiarized, it's sort of vastly off topic, you know. So usually you're writing of specific stuff and your own ideas, and that's good. But be careful about that, because again, you'd get a 0 on a plagiarized assignment, and that could cost you like 100 points, which really would ruin your grade in this class. That, I believe, is everything on this except for the student learning outcomes that we should look at. So when you finish the class, we hope that you will be able to analyze operational and regulatory issues related to broadcast electronic media. So that brings up the word regulator, which I didn't mention before, but part of the history of this field is the intervention of the government, usually to try to create a kind of level playing field in which business can thrive. But also they get involved in censoring content sometimes. So that's interesting to look at. You know, that's currently a pretty big issue that Facebook and Twitter are grappling with, you know, now that we've all become aware that, you know, just opening up your platform to anybody to say anything opens you up to a lot of social criticism. So I think we're back into those interesting debates about, you know, what kind of speech should be permitted. Some people feel that all speech should be permitted, you know, and what should be regulated or restricted because it could be harmful or you know, somehow. And so Facebook has got, you know, tens of thousands of people scrolling through content right now, and but at the basis of their work is like what could be allowed, what could not, and how to deal with it in this, you know, media environment where people are constantly communicating now. It was easier when it was just a television show that you had to look at, you know. Now it's like 1,000 tweets a minute. You know? Anyhow, outcome 2, explain the history of electronic media technology. Straightforward enough. You'll be able to analyze and evaluate current trends in electronic media. Boy, there's so much going on, and that's why we do that industry news presentation. You know, if every media company is now getting into streaming, the way that Disney, you know, is launching 2 streams of their original content. They're not going to let Netflix do it for them anymore. They'll do it themselves. So that's a trend. Everybody is trying to create a subscription video streaming service and see how much we will pay for it and how many different ones we will pay for before we reach, you know, the $75 we used to spend on cable TV with 6 or 7 streaming services that we, you know, you got your Hulu, you got your Amazon Prime, you got your Netflix, you got your, now Disney wants, you know, if you want to see any Disney or any Pixar or any Lucasfilm, you'll have to, you know, give them your money and so on. Evaluate issues regarding operations and business practices in contemporary electronic media. So this might be of interest if you're intending to go into it, you know, and realize that it's a gig economy with, you know, all of those different issues around employment. And finally, analyze the effect of media on individuals and society. And so, as I said, there's a history of carefully conducted research on things like television violence. Does it actually, you know, does watching video games, you know, make people go out and kill other people? Well, that's ludicrous on one hand, because we'd all be killing each other, everyone playing games. On the other hand, it's also very seductive. Anytime there's some kind of school shooter out there, it's like, well, what, you know, did this kid play a lot of, like, you know, Fortnite or whatever? Fortnite's not all that violent, but anyhow, I think we covered the whole darn thing. Questions? No, okay. Pardon me? Did I hear homework? Chow's asking about homework. No homework as of yet. We're going to start jumping in. Next class, we will start a little lecture, and I'll tell you more about the media use diary. So if you do want to do a little homework, read that over and ask me any questions you want about that before next class. Yep.
Can we find the live stream of the class?
Oh, good point. Good question. So check it out here. On the home page in Canvas, streaming information will tell you where to go for the live stream. And so at the live stream, you go look on the EATV page, and for instance, there's Introduction to Electronic Media. Let's see if we can create a media feedback loop. Ooh, I don't know. Actually, this might actually create feedback, so maybe we don't want to do that. But that's where you go to see the live stream. And then, where was I here? Streaming information. This is where the archive will appear. So there's a bunch of stuff up there, but you'll see once we get going. There I am from last semester, so you'll see them appear. Oh, that's not me. Anyhow, but you'll recognize, you can filter for our classes there. Okay. So once again, how did we get there? We looked here for this link, streaming information, on the home page of Canvas. Okay. So now anyone who wants an ad code for this class for audio production 120, stick around, I'll give them out. If you want help about Canvas, stick around and I'll help you. Anything else? Okay, thank you. See you on Thursday.